Hi, Mary. Nice to see faces. It really is. But please, if I do a lot of facial expressions, I'm going to try not to. So if I start doing that, you guys text me, okay? I'm not going to.
Aware of that.
Don't make bad faces. Ken, you look like you're ready to do the national news with that background.
That's a good one.
All right, good morning, everyone. Let's call the meeting to order. This is Tuesday, February 9th, 2021. It is 09:03. This is the board meeting. We're going to call the roll and establish a quorum. My name is Michael Jackson, President of the Board, faculty member appointed by the governor. Ken?
You're muted, Ken. We were
Sorry.
able to see you move, but not speak.
Ken Marlborough, Vice President, public member appointed by the Senate Rules Committee.
Imelda Sehab Buckowitz? Imelda?
Oh, was I? Sorry, I was unmuted. I was muted. Good morning, everyone. Again, this is Imelda Sehab Buckowitz, appointed by the governor as a public member. Thank you.
Mary Fagan? Mary?
Good morning, Mary Fagan. I'm Nursing Services Administration member appointed by the governor.
Susan?
Good morning, Susan Naranjo, public member appointed by the speaker.
Dolores?
Hi, good morning. I'm Dolores Trujillo, an RN, appointed by the governor in the nurse bedside role.
And our executive officer.
You skipped Betty, I believe.
Oh, sorry. Betty?
Hi, Elizabeth Woods, and I was appointed by the governor for the advanced practice role. I'm a family nurse practitioner.
Thank you very much. And our executive officer.
Hi, I'm Loretta Melby, or Lori, and I'm the Executive Officer of the Board of Registered Nurses, appointed by the board. And then we do have our legal counsel, Reza, on as well, Michael.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Good morning. This is Reza, legal counsel.
Thank you very much. The quorum has been established and the roll has been called. At this time, I'd just like to take a brief moment as a moment of personal privilege to offer up a moment of silence for one of the director of nursing from the Imperial Valley College program, who unfortunately passed away of COVID-19. So at this time, just take a brief moment of silence for Roberta Webster, who died from COVID-19. And thank you all for that brief moment of silence for Roberta Webster, Director of Nursing Program for Imperial Valley College. All right, we're going to move right along to general instructions for the format of the teleconference. We'll turn it over to the BRN so he can provide instructions.
Good morning. This is the BRN moderator. I will be moderating the meeting. To facilitate public comment, we will be utilizing the WebEx question and answer feature. When the board reaches a point in the agenda at which public comment is appropriate, the question and answer feature will be turned on, and members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by inserting the phrase, "I would like to make a comment," in the question box, which is typically in the lower right of your screen. I will then call on the individual and unmute their microphone. The individual will have 2 or 3 minutes to make their comments. Can I get clarification on that, please?
At this time, we're going to do public comment that's going to be limited to 2 minutes.
Thank you. The individual will have 2 minutes to make their comments. I will not give a warning as your time approaches. I will mute your microphone and will announce that your time has exceeded the time allotted. I will then move on to the next member of the public who has a comment. Please note that the question and answer feature is being used only as a means for members of the public to represent that they would like to make a verbal comment. This is not a means to ask questions of the moderator or members of the board. Such inquiries submitted using this feature will not be answered. When asking a question, please make sure the question is directed at the host, me, in the drop-down. If any attendees utilize a profane name, they will not be called upon to prevent members of the public from being subject to profane language. While you are free to express criticism or negative views, for the sake of members of the public participating on the call, please do not use profane language when making when making public comments to the board. I will provide a brief reminder of this approach at the start of each public comment item. Finally, when board members or senior staff are not speaking, I would like to remind them to mute their microphone. If I detect background noise during this meeting as a result of unmuted microphones, I will interject with a brief friendly reminder. Thank you.
BRN moderator, thank you very much for those instructions. Moving on to item 3.0, this is public comments for items not on the agenda. Items for future agenda items. Public comments will be limited to 2 minutes. Thank you very much. We'll open it for public comment now.
We will be opening for public comment now. I will be activating the question and answer feature. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in their request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, I would like to make a comment. Please remember, you will have 2 minutes to make your comments. I will not give a reminder as your time approaches. I do not want to interrupt you nor cause you to lose your train of thought. I will mute your microphone and inform you that your time is expired, and we'll move on to the next member of the public. I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, I would like to make a comment. Dr. Mary Tahari would like to make a comment. 1 second, please. Go ahead.
Good morning, all. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here this morning. I want to clarify that there is an individual that is supposed to be on this team to represent the nurse practitioners for the new laws that will take an effect. His name is Brad Chappell, and it says MD. I want to clarify if this is the same person that is a DO, a doctor of osteopathic, and not a medical doctor who works currently as not a physician, but in the emergency room, leading the nurse practitioners department in the emergency room at Harbor UCLA. Now that's my first question. If it is the same person that is a DO, not an MD, please make sure that the information being relayed to the public is accurate. Number two, my comment is he is not a pro nurse practitioner. Working with him personally side by side for over 5 or 7 years as my nurse practitioner career at Harbor UCLA, multiple nurse practitioners have left and filed complaints against this person because he is anti-nurse practitioner. Please make sure that it is the same person that is on there, because that is confusing to those of us who are nurse practitioners and would like to know, or the public in general. Thank you so much for your time.
Liz Chu would like to make a comment. 1 second, please.
I
Go ahead.
am, yes, hi, this is Liz Chu. I'm nurse practitioner. And I am concerned regarding the nominations for the advisory board. It appears that the 3 nurse practitioners are not practicing in family practice. And I think that that is important that we have a nurse practitioner on the advisory board that is practicing in family practice. And also my understanding is that 2 of the nominees are from San Diego, University of California, San Diego. And I think it would be better to have more widespread representation across the state. And also, I was told that one of the nominees was originally opposed to AB 890, and that would be Samantha Farr. So that also concerns me. Thank you.
Thank you. Ron Ordona would like to make a comment. 1 second, please. Go ahead, Ron.
Good morning to the members of the board and the public. My name is Ron Ordona. I'm a nurse practitioner in home-based primary care. We provide access to care for homebound elderly population in the suburban and rural areas of the Sacramento and neighboring counties. We would like to respectfully raise our concerns to the non-representation of nurse practitioner in the trenches of primary care. As you know, primary care presents its own unique challenges as a practice. And the intent of the law is to provide access to care and reach those who need access to primary care because of disability, lack of transportation, whether they are in inner cities or in the rural areas, and whether they are homebound. Please reconsider the nominee selection to include representation from primary care. Additionally, we would like to know the process of selecting these nominees out of over 300 applicants, especially as how far have nominees met the recommendations for broad representation of NP practice in California. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Patricia Gurney would like to make a comment. 1 second, please. Go ahead, Patricia.
Thank you very much for allowing me this opportunity. Good morning, members. My name is Patty Gurney. I'm a pediatric nurse practitioner in primary care in Northern California. And I also must object vigorously to the failure of seating anyone on this board who is in primary care. The primary intent of AB 890 was, and particularly in naming this advisory committee who is to have a very crucial role in rolling out the regulations and advising the board on nurse practitioner practice in California, is to represent nurse practitioner practice across the state. The 4 NP members who are named are in specialty practices and largely urban areas. There's no one in primary care. We're also at CANP really wanting to understand the process of selection. What kind of qualifications do they have with regards to education policy, legislation, and practice in the state of California? None of these named 4 NP members who are nominated are members of CANP. And we must vigorously object to seating anyone in the committee until the questions about the selection and the qualifications and the lack of representation are answered fully. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Jeffrey Vu would like to make a comment. 1 second, please.
Sorry, can I make a quick interruption? This is Reza, the board's legal counsel. I just want to give a quick reminder. The topic on this agenda item was comments for items not on the agenda, but it seems like most of the comments so far have been about a particular agenda item, that being the appointment of members to the Nurse Practitioner Advisory Committee. So there will be another opportunity when speaking about that specific agenda item to make comments. And I think any comments that are specific to that issue are more appropriate for that public comment period. Otherwise, any other comments for anything not on the agenda is perfectly fine here. Thank you.
Go ahead, Jeffrey. Jeffrey Vu, would you like to make a comment or no?
I'm sorry, I was muted. My name is Jeffrey Vu. I'm a family nurse practitioner in Orange County, and I can postpone my comments until that point per the legal counsel.
Thank you. Garrett Chan, would you like to make a comment? 1 second, please. Go ahead, Garrett.
Thanks, Mark. Actually, it was more along the lines with Reza. I was getting confused about the comments. So if anybody, all the previous speakers would want to line up in public comment for the next agenda item, that would be the best time for the folks to do so. So thank you.
Thank you. Amy Ziegler would like to make a comment. 1 second, please. Go ahead, Amy.
Yes, I too will hold my comment until later.
Okay, thank you. LH would like to make a comment. 1 second, please. Go ahead, LH.
Sorry, this is Lindsay Howard. I would also like to defer my comment.
Thank you. Cynthia Jovanov would like to make a comment. 1 second, please.
To defer. Hi, I would like to defer my comment as well to the next discussed agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Alexa Curtis would like to make a comment. 1 second, please.
Yes, this is
Go ahead,
Alexa. Yes, this is Alexa. Curtis, I would like to defer into the next agenda item. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Beth Haney would like to make a comment. 1 second, please. Go ahead, Beth.
Hi, thank you. I was going to hold until the appropriate agenda item. Thanks.
Thank you. I believe I have covered everybody. Board President Jackson, would you like me to close this window?
Yes, please. We can close the public comment window. At this time, we're going to reorder the agenda. We are going to reorder the agenda and take item 5.0 prior to taking item 4.0. Item 5.0 is discussion and possible action, establishment and appointment of members to the Nurse Midwifery Advisory Committee, created pursuant to Business and Professions Code Section 2746.2, Subdivision B. Nominees are as follows. We have Dr. Jennifer Shaw Bautista, Dr. Ruth Milkey. We have Dr. Mary Catherine Phillips, Hillary Reyes. We have Dr. Perone Burdick, and we have Dr. Byrne, and we have a public member, Rebecca DeSantis. And at this time, I would make a recommendation that we approve these members.
I'd like to second that. This is Dolores.
Are there any comments from the board members?
This is Imelda Sehab-Betgwitz. I would like to know the representation, where these folks are from. Do they represent the state of California or just certain areas?
I can respond to that, Imelda.
Thank you, Mary.
Yeah, so Jennifer Shaw Batista is from Northern California. She has extensive leadership experience and has practiced in multiple settings in academia and practice. Ruth Milkey is from the South. She also has academic experience as well as leadership. She trained in Minnesota, where she was a nurse midwife who practiced with full practice authority. She's also active in the American College of Nurse Midwives. Mary Catherine Phillips is a Navy background. She's from the South. She's practicing now at Kaiser and in private practice, and also practice in multiple settings without supervision from physicians in the Navy. Hillary Reyes is from the South. She has leadership experience in academia. She's currently a member of the Nurse Midwife Advisory Committee, also practiced in a variety of settings. Misha Perrin-Burdick is from the North. She works in integrated practice, where she's the medical director and on their interdisciplinary practice committee. And then James Byrne is central, extensive experience in leadership on boards and working closely with nurse midwives. And Rebecca DeSantis is from the North.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to see there's someone representing the Central Valley. Thank you for that, Mary.
Yeah, there weren't as many applications from the Central Valley. We reviewed them very carefully.
Yeah, that's always an issue, but thank you.
Thank you very much. We have a first and a second. Did you have a comment, Board Member Marlborough?
Yeah, I just wondered if there was any of the nominees that are that are listed for our votes. Are they here? Is there any of them that would like to say something, a short comment or anything? If not, it's okay. I just want to give them the opportunity if it's available to them.
That will be done during the that can be done during the public comment section.
That works. Thank you.
Are there any more comments from the board members? Seeing no further comments from the board members, we'd like to open it up for public comment before the board takes a vote.
In 1 second, please. I'm trying to clear out the original request. All right, I think I'm caught up. Okay, sorry. We will be opening for public comment now. I will be activating the question and answer feature. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in their request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, "I would like to make a comment." Please remember, you will have 2 minutes to make your comments. I will not give a reminder as your time approaches. I do not want to interrupt you nor cause you to lose your train of thought. I will mute your microphone and inform you that your time has expired, and we'll move on to the next member of the public. I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, "I would like to make a comment." LH would like to make a comment. 1 second, please. Go ahead, LH.
Hi, I apologize. This is for the, this is Lindsay Howard. This is for the agenda item 4, I believe, that I would like to make a comment. So I'll defer.
Thank you. Beth Haney would like to make a comment. 1 second, please.
And for item 4, thank you.
Thank you. Liz Chu would like to make a comment. 1 second, please. Go ahead, Liz.
Yes, hi. No, I did not want to make a comment regarding the Midwifery Board. I wanted to make a just reiterate my comment when it's time for the Nurse Practitioner Advisory Board. Sorry. Thanks.
No problem. Thank you. Meza would like to make a comment. 1 second, please. Go ahead, Imeza.
Regarding the Nurse Practitioner Advisory Board, I would like to respectfully raise a concern about the appointment of Dr. Bradley Chappell. In our experience, Dr. Chappell
Sorry,
has
can I cut you off there? We're on the nurse midwifery committee at this time. The nurse practitioner committee will be taken up next.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
No problem. Sorry about that.
Thank you. Jenna Shah Batista would like to make a comment. Go ahead, Jenna.
So I just wanted to express my appreciation for your support of my nomination and say that I'm really looking forward to working on the Nurse Midwifery Advisory Committee.
Thank you. Rebecca DeSantis would like to make a comment. 1 second, please. Go ahead, Rebecca.
Too, thank you for your support in my nomination. I also am a pharmacy technician. I have been in pharmacy for nearly 20 years, so just for a little background of what I bring to the table, I have been practicing across the United States from Georgia to Idaho to Texas to Nevada to California, and I welcome the opportunity to help make our community better. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe I have gotten everybody. Board President Jackson, would you like me to close this window?
Did Dr. James Burns have an opportunity to speak?
Oh, let me see. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. 1 second.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Dr. Byrne.
Good morning. I just want to thank the board and the staff for the BRN for this opportunity. It looks to be a great group. I'm honored and humbled to be working with over the next few years. And let's look forward to making a lot of changes to help enhance the role of certified nurse midwives in our care delivery systems.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now we are clear. Board President Jackson, would you like me to close this window?
Thank you very much. You can close the window now at this time. Going back to our reordered agenda, we'll go back to item 4.0. Item 4.0, discussion and possible action, establishment and appointment of the members of the Nurse Practitioner Advisory Committee, created pursuant to Business and Professions Code Section
Michael, Ken is trying to get
2837.
your attention.
Did we take a vote?
Oh, I apologize. Board Member Marlborough. Going back to item 5.0, BRN moderator. We've already had a first and second and opportunity for public discussion. We need to call for the vote at this time. Michael Jackson votes yes. Ken?
Ken Marlborough votes yes.
Imelda?
Imelda votes yes.
Mary?
Mary Fagan votes yes.
Dolores?
Dolores Trujillo votes yes.
Betty?
Elizabeth Woods votes yes.
And Susan?
Susan Naranjo votes yes.
Thank you very much, board members. And thank you very much to our committee that worked very hard to put this team together. And it is going to be great things for California, as the physician just mentioned. And thank you to the legislators that passed this bill and all the work that went into it. It's been a long road, and California is coming into the future. Thank you very much. Now we can go back to item 4.0. Item 4.0, discussion and possible action, establishment of an appointment of members of the Nurse Practitioner Advisory Committee, created pursuant to Business and Professions Code Section 2837.102. And the nominees are as followed. Samantha Gambles Farr, who's a nurse practitioner, FNPC certified. She's a CCRN and a registered nurse, RNFA, nurse practitioner member. Dr. Kevin Maxwell, nurse practitioner member. Jan Johnson Griffin, MSN, nurse practitioner. Sally Pham, RN, FNP board certified, nurse practitioner member. Bradley Chappelle, he is a DO and not an MD. And Andrea Espinosa, she is an MD. And our public member, Betha Schnell, public member. My recommendation is to accept. And do I have a second?
Skip and Barbara, I'll second it.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
President Jackson, this is Reza, legal counsel. If I may, can I make a brief statement about, just in general, about the process, and also wanted to address something specific to this agenda item?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Thank you. So the purpose of today's meeting, as you already know, since we did one agenda item, was to for the board members to consider the formal appointment of the individuals named in the agenda to each respective advisory committee. Members of the public will have an opportunity to give comment before the board takes any formal action, as we just did with the Midwives Committee. Just by way of a brief bit of background on the process, the board, over several meetings, received public comments. Some of those comments emphasized a preference that board members, as opposed to board staff or any of the existing committees, should be the ones who select the nominees for these advisory committees. Therefore, at a board meeting, it was decided that the process would entail 2 board members for each committee to go through the applications and identify the candidates they felt would best serve each committee. This was no small feat. The recruitment announcements were published. Board members reviewed and screened literally hundreds of applications, and identified the nominees that are being recommended here today. This was done with some expediency and urgency so that the committees could be established quickly and get to work on implementing the other provisions, in this case of AB 890, and in the case of the Nurse Midwives Committee, to get to work quickly advising the board on issues relating to midwifery. The board received, as you've heard, many applications from very highly qualified individuals, but ultimately only a few could be selected to serve on the committees. Regarding the Nurse Practitioner Advisory Committee, in particular, the upcoming agenda item, AB 890 states, quote, "The committee shall consist of 4 qualified nurse practitioners, 2 physicians and surgeons with demonstrated experience working with nurse practitioners, and 1 public member," end quote. These are the only criteria that the board is required to consider in appointing members to the committee, being that those are what the legislature specifically wrote into our statutes. I would like to note that the board received a letter yesterday afternoon. That letter was from Assembly Member Jim Wood and Senator Mike McGuire. That letter has been provided to board members, and it has been also made available to the public as additional meeting materials. That letter is on the website at this time. Regarding that letter, it states that the intent of the bill was to improve, the intent of AB 890, to be clear, was to improve access to care in both urban and rural communities, and to provide nurse practitioners with the opportunity to practice autonomously in various settings. The letter requests the board to, quote, revise the proposed committee membership to include rural representation that reflects a greater diversity of perspective, end quote. I just wanted to note again that from a legal standpoint, the law only requires that the committee have 4 qualified nurse practitioners, 2 physicians and surgeons, and 1 public member. The law doesn't identify any further requirements about the composition of the committee. It did not state that the committee necessarily needs to include 1 or more members from a rural setting. The board is absolutely free and ought to consider the information and the request in the letter, but just please know that legally the board is not bound to consider geography or any other factors that are not listed in statute in making appointments to this committee. Also, the letter does point out that 2 committee nominees have affiliations with the same university system that President Jackson works for as an RN. However, there is no indication in the letter or elsewhere of any impropriety in the selection of nominees. With that, I turn it over to the board members for the discussion of this item.
Thank you very much, Reza, for your presentation and your information. I'm sure it's very helpful to the board members and the public and the appointees. At this time, is there any further discussion from board members?
This is Imelda Soha Bedquist. I would like to reconsider the nominees. I agree that we need, it's not in the law, AB 90, but I would like to consider folks from the rural areas as well. So we have a representation across the board. Thank you.
Imelda, just so you are aware, Dr. Espinosa is from Porterville.
This is Reza. If I could just add one additional thing. That's correct. Porterville, for those who don't know, it's I think 50, 60 miles north of Bakersfield in the Central Valley. I don't know too much about it, but it certainly appears to be a rural area. The other thing I wanted to mention, certainly if the board decides to reconsider this list, that's something that can be done. I do want to just mention that we've gotten a lot of emphasis and a lot of pressure placed on us to push this process and move it along quickly. That's not to say that we should rush things. In fact, I think we've struck a pretty good balance of moving quickly, but taking care to give due care to this process. But there's been a lot of pressure to move this process quickly so that this committee can take part in the implementation of AB 890. As you know, there will be some regulations that need to be drafted, excuse me, and other steps before the independent practice authority of NPs under the bill really truly takes effect. And
Reza, as we know, as we can see how the board meetings go for the BRN, the meetings aren't done in secret. The public is always present and always has an opportunity to make input.
Yes, very good point. With a committee of 7 people, it probably won't be possible to cover each and every different geographic area and each and every stakeholder interest. However, despite that, we are always conducting our business openly and in public meetings, and we invite and take very seriously public comment that we receive. The public is always a part of the process, whether it's discussions at board meetings, development of regulations, and all the rest. The board doesn't take action without hearing from the public first. So, if there appears to be, from any one person's perspective, a lack of representation for a certain geographical area or family practice or education or whatever it may be, we are still wide open to comment from stakeholders representing those various groups.
Michael, this is Elizabeth Woods. I'd like to say something, please.
Thank you very much. Go ahead.
In putting together this process and getting these candidates, we reviewed many, many CVs and information that was presented to us by the candidates. And at the present moment, the candidates work in a certain area. That's not their whole history. Many of these candidates have been nurse practitioners for many, many years and have worked in many different settings, both rural and not rural, and come at a variety of backgrounds, and not just the present background where they work. And that had to be taken into consideration and weighed appropriately. Most of these nurse practitioners also, beside their paid position, also volunteer in different areas, both in California, outside of California, and overseas. So they come from a variety of backgrounds, a variety of educations, and hopefully we have chosen the best candidates possible.
And the commitments are 2 years. Nurse practitioners have an opportunity to serve on the next committee if they're unhappy about the appointments. If they're unhappy about the appointments, they have an opportunity to show up as public members and as stakeholders to offer their input into whatever decisions are being made.
Michael, can I ask for some clarification? This is Loretta. The appointees from San Diego, do they also serve in the Imperial Valley region as well? Or are they strictly just the urban San Diego based?
Well, you know, San Diego, the university, not just UCSD, but the University of California serves the entire state. And we serve the underserved populations. San Diego also staffs El Centro Hospital. They take care of a significant amount of patients from the border. They take care of patients that are at Father Joe's Village, which is a homeless center downtown. And as you just saw yesterday, the governor was here in San Diego praising the University of California for its vaccine efforts and its fight for COVID-19. And UCSD also staffs occasionally Children's Hospital, right, Mary?
I'd like to make a comment, Michael.
Yes, please.
I agree with Imelda. I have serious concerns about the nominees for this advisory committee. I think having two nurse practitioners who function in acute care in the same hospital, given that and they may have varied backgrounds, but I think that is something that should be questioned. I also am concerned, I know that there was comment in the previous public comment about whether Dr. Keppel is actually someone who supports the practice of nurse practitioners. And I think we definitely want to have physicians, representatives on this advisory committee that are very supportive of nurse practitioner practice. So I agree with Imelda. I think we should reconsider the nominees for this committee.
Are there any other comments from the board members?
I just wanted to throw something out there, if I may. This is Reza, legal counsel again. The board should certainly consider the intent of ABA 90. The board, if it's not comfortable with a physician member who's not pro NP, as a public commenter said, not to confirm that, but you can certainly consider that. I just wanted to mention that the board and thus this.
Reza, let me ask a question then. We could take the rest of the members, and if there's a concern about this particular member, we can put that back out there for the physicians to reapply. Is that okay?
Yeah, I don't see any reason why we couldn't confirm the other nominees.
This is actually, can I make another comment too? The other thing that I find very, very concerning is that Assemblyman Member Woods and the senator, I can't remember, who were involved in writing this legislation, seriously have concerns about the nominees and don't believe that the nominees represent the spirit of the bill. I mean, to me, that's a major concern that we need to consider.
Mary, just for clarification, it was Senator McGuire.
This is Reza again. Two points. Finishing my last point, I wanted to just throw it out there that the board's highest obligation is consumer protection, and so this committee, by default, also is intended to serve the board in fulfilling that mission of consumer protection. So we're not necessarily pro-NP or anti-NP or any of that. We're pro-consumer, and that's it. So if we think that having a doctor who is, if we think that he's not pro-NP, you ought to consider that through the perspective of how that impacts the board's mission of consumer protection, not strictly how it impacts the practice and expansion of NP practice. Ultimately, it's what's good for consumers that we're mandated to uphold. Lost my train of thought on the second point, so I'll leave it there for now until it comes back to me.
For clarification.
Oh, I'm sorry. If I just want to say. Go ahead.
Right, and then yeah.
Okay.
I just wanted to.
Go ahead, Lori.
I'm so sorry, Reza. Since your train of thought came back, I will let you go ahead and speak, and then I will ask my clarifying question afterwards.
Thank you. You never know when I'm going to lose it again. So thanks. The letter that we received, hopefully you've all had a chance to review that, and certainly definitely important piece of information to consider. I just also want to say that, as I said earlier, what we are bound to uphold is what's in statute. And as a general principle in the law, interpreting statutes, we don't really, if a statute is unambiguous in its plain language, then we simply apply the text of the statute. And here I read for you the text of the statute. It said 4 NPs, 2 physician surgeons, and 1 public member. That's pretty unambiguous, pretty plain to understand. So in general, in statutory interpretation, we don't look to any extraneous information about what the legislative intent was if the text of the statute was plain and simple. If the text of the statute said we need to have a rural member or whatever other criteria that they wanted to put in there, generally as attorneys, we presume that the legislature could have written that into the statute, and they didn't. So given that the text is plain and clear, our obligation is not to go beyond that text. Furthermore, the letter that you received, again, I don't want to, I say this with all due respect to the authors of that. However, that letter more accurately represents the intent of the author of the bill and of Senator McGuire in voting on it. It's to say that represents the intent of the entire legislature. The letter's not on behalf of the entire legislature. So I still encourage you to consider it, and I'm not proposing that you take any action one way or the other. But again, I encourage you to consider that letter. But if it gives you cause for concern because you agree with the information in there, we can certainly tap the brakes and go from there. Otherwise, as I said, we're not legally bound by what the author of the bill asserted, and requested here to revise the list of nominees. And as Michael said, if there are 6 nominees that you're comfortable with appointing, that's something we can at least move forwards with and come back to fill the last seat or whatever remains at the end of the process.
Thank you very much, Reza. You know what? At this time, I would actually amend my motion and remove Bradley Chappelle from the list since we've heard comments and concerns. But the rest I will leave in place. Whoever seconded my motion, are we okay with that?
This is Ken Marlborough. Yes, I can accept your friendly motion.
Thank you
Your
very
change
much.
of motion.
Are there any further comments from the board?
I had a question real quick, Michael. I was waiting in line from Reza. And I really appreciated, because of our board staff and myself are not a part of the selection committee, it was quite helpful when Dr. Mary Fagan gave a brief rundown on the various people that were nominees to become appointed to the C&M committee. Can you and Betty give us that same rundown and speak a little bit on the background of each of these nominees?
Yes, I can. Samantha Gamble's FAR.
Can I make a comment before you do that? Regarding your motion, I am not comfortable with just reconsidering some and not all. I think we have to reconsider as a whole. So that's my comment to your motion.
I support that too, Imelda.
This is Reza. One additional point, if I may, I hate to keep jumping in, but there was something that was discussed at the recent Advanced Practice RN Advisory Committee that I think is important to just put out here as well. At that committee meeting, it was suggested that the APRN Advisory Committee begin the process of working on regulations for transition to practice and things like that, that under AB 890 need to take place before the independent practice authority of AB 890 actually becomes effective. I shared my opinion there, my legal opinion. The way that the statutes are written in AB 890, none of that can go very far without the establishment of this Nurse Practitioner Advisory Committee, which is mandated in the statute to advise the board on all matters relating to nurse practitioners. The way I read it, that this committee that we're establishing or will establish needs to take part in the development of the transition to practice regulations and everything else that AB 890 directs us to do. So that's part of why there was some time sensitivity and not self-imposed. It was, we were responding to the pressure to move this process along. So the process of implementing AB 890 will essentially be held up until we have this committee in place to advise the board on, again, all matters relating to nurse practitioners, which includes defining transition to practice by regulation and other things as well.
Reza, I do appreciate your advice, but I think at this point in time, we do have an obligation for consumer protection. And yeah, it was kind of rushed. And even if we hold off a little bit more, I think that would be the right thing to do. So thank you for your advice.
Are you saying that board member Seha Buckowitz, are you saying that me and Betty Woods rushed through the program and did not pay attention?
No,
because
that you rushed. I think that
thorough discussion between Betty and myself, and we chose candidates. We chose candidates from a diverse background. The way that COVID-19 has impacted communities of color and communities that have been disparaged by COVID-19, we made our selections and adjusted our selections based on what is current and happening today. That's what we made
I am
our
not
selection.
attacking you. I think it was the public that was rushing us.
Oh, you're saying that
we
you're saying that we're not going to fulfill our duty to protect the public, and that the members that we've chosen won't fulfill their duties to protect the public.
That was my comment, and I do respect your comments, but I was just making my comment. So please give me the privilege of doing that without attacking. I am not attacking,
I'm not attacking
you or Betty. So that's just my comment. We'll leave it at that.
But we did hard work on this, and it required many meetings with Betty, myself, and the staff in order to make sure that we did this process appropriately.
And I appreciate it, but that's still my comment. I appreciate all the hard work that has been put into this, but I still think that we have an obligation, and I would like to reconsider all. Thank you.
This is Elizabeth Woods. I'd like to say something about the process, and maybe it might help you, Imelda, understand it a bit more. Somebody had mentioned previously that there was no family nurse practitioners on the committee. Of the 4 people that we chose, 3 of them are family nurse practitioners. Now, they have long history, so they may have gone into a more a different category. Some are psych nurses, some are pediatric nurses, but they started out as family nurse practitioners. So, and the other thing I don't understand, Imelda, somebody made a comment about Dr. Chappelle, and it seemed to be an issue with Dr. Chappelle. Why would, if there's no issues with the other members, why would we have to go through a whole process of interviewing new people again when we've chosen these people and nobody seems to have a problem with the other people? It was Bradley Chappell that came to the fore as possibly a problem.
Hey,
why is there a reason?
You didn't hear this. His name has been on the agenda for more than 10 days. So no one sent a letter to the board, or no one sent a letter to Lori for us to have this information.
No, we didn't hear anything about this until last evening,
Today.
6 o'clock.
No, I'm talking about Bradley. We didn't hear about this until today.
Look, great. We didn't hear about any of this until last night.
I personally still have a concern that Samantha Gambles-Farr and Kevin Maxwell work in the same acute care unit right now.
And they do different portions of work. Samantha Gambles-Farr, she's also the president of the Black Nursing Association and does community work volunteering outside of the hospital. African Americans have been disproportionately affected by COVID-19. Do you agree, Mary?
I agree 100%.
So UCSD has been one of the organizations on the forefront of vaccinating communities. African American communities are reluctant to get the vaccine. This is why we put together a diverse population team, ranging and spanning across California.
This is Elizabeth Woods again. Before we went through the various CVs and various information that was presented to us, we did consult with our attorney about what we should consider, what we should not consider. And we followed that advice. We didn't get any information about that we should choose somebody from a urban or suburban area. But as it turns out, it came out that way because we do have Dr. Espinoza, who is in an area that certainly is not an urban area. So I would like to hear from other people if they consider any of these other candidates not adequate to go forward. All I've heard is Bradley Chappell.
And the only African American on the committee that was brought up by Mary.
Help me understand Kevin Maxwell.
Kevin Maxwell has both PhD, DNP, works as a full-time faculty at USD.
And his clinical practice?
Clinical practice, he's worked both at a Kearney Mesa primary care clinic and at UCSD. People have multiple jobs. It doesn't mean that they're not able to make a balanced, equitable decision and protect the public of California. There's large
Michael,
systems.
there was other concerns.
There are large healthcare systems in California. The University of California employs hundreds of thousands of employees. Kaiser employs hundreds of thousands of employees. The military employs hundreds of thousands of employees. VA, they also employ hundreds of thousands of employees.
Michael, I know that in some of the comments earlier, there was other concerns. I think if you wanted to open it at this time for public comments, maybe you'll hear more.
Are the board members finished with discussion? Are the board members finished with discussion? Because if the board members are finished with discussion,
Are you and Elizabeth going to elaborate on the choices so that we can get some background on each of the members, please?
I'd be very happy to do that.
I think we just did that, Lori.
I only heard Samantha Gamble's and Kevin Maxwell. I did not hear anything on Jan Johnson, Sally Pham, Andrea Espinosa, or Betha Schnell.
I would be very happy to go through mine if you require that.
I already covered Samantha and Kevin.
Let's see. Do you want just the NP ones, or do you want also the doctor and the public member? I'll do them all, then you can decide what is relevant for you.
And we've already voted to remove Dr. Chappelle from the vote. Based on—
To be clear, I don't think we voted, but I think the motion that's on the table is
to remove him,
excluding
yes.
Dr. Chappelle.
Go ahead, Betty.
Shall I continue?
Yes, please.
Betha Chanel, who is the public member, is from the South area. She's from the Newport Beach area, and she's the CEO of Planned Parenthood in Orange County and San Bernardino. She has 14 years experience managing nurse practitioners in protocol-driven practices. She's aware of their limitations. She's aware of best practices. Planned Parenthood, of course, is across the state, so she knows what's going on in Planned Parenthood across the state. She manages patient services, finances, human resources. She has 380 employees, MDs, NPs, and other employees. While she is the CEO of Planned Parenthood, Orange County, San Bernardino, she's increased services tremendously, and she's increased the waiting time for Planned Parenthood services in her area. That's the public member. Excuse me, getting the information here. Out of the Central Valley, Adrian Espinoza is an MD in Porterville. Certainly not the urban capital of the world. She's a UC San Francisco graduate and University of Wisconsin in family medicine. She worked in Indian health. She's worked at Placerville in family practice, and presently she started a solo practice. Tulare County is one of the poorest in California. It's it certainly needs changes in the healthcare delivery in that area. She wants to be part of that process. She has precepted and worked with nurse practitioners for years. She says no one is a sole practitioner, and they all come from multidisciplinary areas, the teams, and their skill level should be appreciated. And she is very intent on increasing services in underserved communities, and understanding the cultural norms and diversity of a community is very important. And that is Dr. Espinoza from the Central Valley. I'll go into the nurse practitioners that I had looked at. And to just give you a way of how this was set up, when we got the names of the people, Michael and I divided them up so that we all didn't have to do, so each of us didn't have to do all of them. So this is how we divided them up. And I did a nurse practitioner from the north. Her name is Sally Pham. She has a master's in nursing. She's an expert witness for the BRN, has been doing that for a while. She lives in the Roseville, Granite Bay area. Presently, she works in neuro with Kaiser Permanente. She's also worked in long-term psychiatric care and chemical dependency, and with women in recovery. She meets monthly with the nurse practitioner professional group, and they deal with issues on quality care, quality patient care. And she's also published. And she wants to be on the committee because she thinks it's the best and safest way that nurse practitioners can give care and move into an independent practice. She knows the nursing practice, and she knows the Nursing Practice Act. When she was at UCLA, they had to study the Nursing Practice Act. She certainly knows the scope of practice, and she also knows her limitation, that she wants to be a member. And let's see. I can give you much more about these people, but I don't want to. I want to give you a general picture of who they are. In the Central Valley, Jan Johnson Griffin. She has a master's in nursing. She's an FNP, plus she's a PNP. She works in the LaGrange, Modesto area, and she is preceptors and nurse practitioner students. She's also worked with child adolescent psychiatry and eating disorders. She also is on a nurse practitioner committee. She's on the Central Valley Nurse Practitioner Leadership Team. So she meets with nurse practitioners from the Central Valley on a regular basis. She volunteers in a mobile health van for women's health in the area. She also is a long-term advisor for 4-H, working with students there she actually does work with, sounds ridiculous, but goats and food, and she assists in developing a program for youth who are interested in agriculture and business. She worked at San Francisco General in healthcare. That's where she got her interest in mental health and wanted to do more on that issue. She believes in giving back to the community and volunteers in her community and elsewhere. She also goes to Botswana to do healthcare there. So if somebody has an issue with these nurse practitioners, I would ask them then to choose other ones. But I certainly continue and to put these nurse practitioners forward, and also the doctor and the public member. Does anybody need to know any more about them? I have that information, but I have to look it up for you. Anybody there? Michael?
Thank you for your presentation, Betty. I think that answers Lori's question.
I don't know. Lori hasn't said.
It does. I know that the public was wanting and requesting transparency of why each one of these nominees were picked. And I think that between Michael's presentation and your presentation, Elizabeth, that it is clear that there was a lot of thought that went into this. I did see that Ken Marble raised his hand.
Yes, I did. And first, I just want to thank both committees that did this work. This wasn't easy, and we know our job is not to make everyone happy, but to come up with a reasonable recommendation that people can live with. I'm not a nurse practitioner. Obviously, I'm a public member, and so I have strictly want to follow what's in the statute of the legislation. That's what I have to do on this. And so far, what I've seen is nothing that says what they did. They looked at the nominees' capabilities and their backgrounds. They did the best that they could do, regardless of what the intent may have been in the statute. It's not there. It gave us the direct information on what we should do as far as picking these committees. And so I'm willing to accept that. I do have some concerns about Bradley Chappell, because in researching, I did see that there is some confusion whether he's an MD or a DO. And I would suggest that we don't necessarily kick him out, but we don't approve him yet, and we investigate that to determine that. And if that's the case, then we need to take a look at another candidate. So again, I just want to thank you, and I'm going to accept what has been brought before us is diversity. And again, this is about serving the state of California as a whole. And I think they've done a pretty decent job on that. And there'll be other opportunities to put other people on here after 2 years. Thank you.
This is Reza, legal counsel. Can I make a quick comment? Thank you very much, Ken. I just wanted to briefly touch on, I agree with everything that Ken said on the piece about Bradley Chappell. There's no confusion. Unfortunately, what's shown on the slide here, identifying him as an MD, it should say DO. He is a DO, not an MD licensee. The statute from AB 890, again, I've read it to you before, it says that we need to appoint 2 physicians and surgeons. The Medical Practice Act refers to osteopathic physicians and surgeons. So the statute in AB 890 doesn't specifically say MDs. It says physician and surgeon, and again, the Medical Boards Practice Act refers to DOs as osteopathic physicians and surgeons. So I just wanted to put that out there. Again, not advocating any action one way or the other, but I did want to be clear that where it says MD, it should say DO. I think there is still, he still possesses the qualifications, at least insofar as being a physician and surgeon. Of course, if board members have other concerns about that nominee, then that's definitely a separate issue.
My motion will stand to appoint all the members with the exception of Dr. Bradley Cooper until we can do further investigation. And I have a second.
And that's Dr. Bradley Chappell, is that correct? Not Bradley
Chappell.
Cooper?
Yes.
All right, Bradley Chappell, DO.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks to our moderator who quickly edited the slide.
There's already a first and a second on that. So seeing no more further discussion from the board members, we can open it up for public comment.
We'll be opening for public comment now. I will be activating the question and answer feature. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to share how they should type in their request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, "I would like to make a comment." Please remember you will have 2 minutes to make your comments. I will not give a reminder as your time approaches. I do not want to interrupt you nor cause you to lose your train of thought. I will mute your microphone and inform you that your time has expired, and we'll move on to the next member of the public. I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, "I would like to make a comment." Okay, we have many here. Sorry, it's going to take me a few here. Amy Paulson would like to make a comment. 1 second, please. Go ahead, Amy.
Hi there, thank you. I appreciate the time and effort to be expedient and the response to urgency of this, but I do request that the committee composition as a whole is reconsidered. I understand the board's not required legally to do more than follow statute and select 4 MPs, 2 MDs, and 1 public member. However, the intent and the overall goals really should be considered. The goal, is to arrive at meaningful, effective progress in closing the provider gap. And it's in the best interest of consumers to have members on this committee that truly want to increase access to nurse practitioners who can practice the fullest extent of their training with providers across the state, both rural and urban, with relevant and recent clinical experience beyond their board certification. And MDs should also have experience practicing with nurse practitioners. And that aspect isn't very clear in terms of the MDs' relationships or working with nurse practitioners. It does seem clear that there are 2 NPs that are primarily acute care oriented and they're from the same organization, which does pose a concern. And that the MD specialty for selection was emergency care. And in general, the emergency physicians have vehemently opposed AB 890. So I am concerned about their interest in truly supporting scope of practice for NPs. And I'd also like more information on the background of all the candidates and any public comments and any support or opposition of AB 890 that has been made available, because there are concerns that some of the committee members have made public comments opposing AB 890. And I think that that's counterproductive to the goal in trying to achieve what we're trying to do here with Assembly Gen Wood. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Amy. Amy Ziegler would like to make a comment. 1 second, please. Go ahead, Amy.
Yes, thank you. And I am one of those that thanks the board for actually having their videos on. That is greatly appreciated. I would like to point out that many have stated that 3 of the members, if not all 4 of the nurse practitioners, are family nurse practitioners. However, they do practice in acute care settings, meaning hospital settings. Therefore, they are governed by hospital bylaws, which adds another layer beyond AB 890, which is the main reason why we're seeking more nurse practitioner representation from those that actually practice within the community. Again, we appreciate that there's a physician member from the rural community, but there's no nurse practitioners from, let's say, a Eureka or Reading area, which would apply as they have a opioid issue in that area. As far as what Betty has alluded to in her review of the members, there is no one that is in administration. So myself in administration at an academic medical center is not represented, nor are any of the NP members that we are aware of, members of our state organization. And we would like to point out, or myself personally, that I do follow several of the members on social media, the Nurse Practitioner Committee potential appointees, and one of them, Samantha, has been publicly on social media opposed to the way the bill is currently written, which again is a concern of how she can help implement AB 890 when she has been vehemently opposed on social media. I thank you for allowing me this time.
Thank you, Amy. Karen Bradley would like to make a comment. 1 second, please. Go ahead, Karen.
Good morning. Thank you for this time. My name is Dr. Karen Bradley. I'm a pediatric nurse practitioner, and I serve as the Dean of Nursing at California Baptist University in Riverside, California. Today, the board is discussing and possibly taking action to appoint these nominees. I would ask the board to review the nominees and potential advisory committee membership, ensuring backgrounds and experience to include an MP with current rural primary care experience, MPs with experience in academia, leadership, and who understand policy making as AB 890 is implemented. Having two nominees from the same setting does not support the goal or optic of common sense for this committee structure. There were hundreds of applicants without any public notice of selection criteria for these advisory committee nominees. Without further transparency for the qualifications, I would ask the BRN to not vote on these nominees today and have further discussion regarding the advisory committee membership. Thank you so much for your time and consideration of this public request.
Thank you, Karen. Shaka Hagnazarian would like to make a comment. 1 second, please. Go ahead.
Hello.
Shaka.
Hi, this is Shake Hagnazarian. I'm a nurse practitioner working as a hospitalist and ER nurse practitioner over at Los Angeles area. Thank you for giving me the time. My concern is, as many of the other public comments were made, first of all, the geographical diversity is kind of overlooked. LA County, which is the most populated county, has no representation. Plus, CAMP has no representation. None of the members are active members of CAMP, which we should consider that CAMP had a major role passing AB 890. Plus, some of the members, unfortunately, have shown that are not wholeheartedly supporting the AB 890. So it does not make sense to have such people on the committee, which if they're not supportive of the AB 890, they would not really help to advance it, to help us nurse practitioners be able to practice at our most efforts and help us advance this to what we can do. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Gilbert T. would like to make a comment. Go ahead, Gilbert.
Yes, can you hear me?
Speak up, please.
Oh, yes. Hi, my name is Gilbert T. I just want to make a comment. Sorry. As a Native American, I've suffered lack of medical care, and the expanding nurse practitioner's role. I mean, this is really important for us in the Central Valley. And I followed years of physicians, blocking this expansion. And I understand that you can have physicians on the panel, but my concern is that we need physicians that are going to work with the other panel to have a strong point of view or a similar point of view. And also the panel that they respect each other and that, they work for the greater good and for the public, So I would just like to add that, these MPs are really important to this role here, and they're boots on the ground. They're not just administrators. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Gilbert. Dr. Mary Taheri would like to make a comment. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate each of your time, and I understand Michael and the team have done, a lot of put in a lot of time to go through the applicants, so we really appreciate it. I do represent SEIU Nurse Alliance. I'm a representative with Nurse Alliance, and we represent thousands of nurse practitioners in LA, as well as registered nurses. My point earlier regarding Brad Chappell, Michael, the reason we had not mentioned anything or you had not heard from any of us and our concerns, because it threw us off that it said MD, not DO. So we thought it was a different person. Last night, I was made aware, and a group of us that are very familiar with this issue regarding this specific physician was made aware that no, it is the DO and not the MD. And that was incorrect. So that is why we're here to speak up and bring this forth so that you understand, each of you understand the importance of having a physician on the panel that wholeheartedly supports the minority, which I've worked for LA County Department of Health Services for over 13 years. I've left the private sector to come and work here. So when I say I stood side by side and worked with this individual, I do not want to be unprofessional. I am telling you my personal experience, along with when you lose 5 NPs over 3 to 4 months, expand top NPs from Harbor UCLA Emergency Department, which most of them were female nurse practitioners of minority race, that raises concerns. And I appreciate your time and I appreciate your efforts, but I also second what Karen Bradley had said, that we need to be diverse, and having 2 providers from same entity, it kind of defeats the purpose, and we should be having more representation across board in California. I appreciate each of your time. Thank you so much for doing all of the hard work, and I'm grateful for each of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Mary. Christy DeLemos would like to make a comment. Go ahead, Christy.
Thank you so much. I want to thank the board for allowing this public commentary. It's a huge opportunity for us to contribute our thoughts around how things are moving forward, and also your immediate attention to moving AB 890 forward. No doubt this was a difficult process, and I appreciate that. I want to echo the concern about the lack of, I practice in an acute care setting, but I am concerned about the lack of representation of people practicing in rural medicine and family medicine. The real life challenges of rural practice, where resources are lowest every day, it just, I wouldn't know that as an acute care nurse practitioner. And so I think there's real value in reconsidering bringing someone on that has that sort of expertise. Also, in looking at other skill sets that might be of huge benefit, is someone who understands operations and has a administrative background. There are huge operational impacts from this. I serve as a director of advanced practice for UC Davis, and I can tell you at our organization, we're looking very carefully at how this is going to impact things. So someone that has an organizational perspective would bring value, and also someone that's ran transition of practice programs. And maybe this isn't possible to bring on someone with those expertise, but maybe consult someone, have your board that you select, bring in a consultant that can add that perspective. Thank you so much for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you, Christy. Charlotte Gullop-Moore would like to make a comment. Go ahead, Charlotte. Oh, sorry.
Charlotte Gullop-Moore, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Sorry. Go ahead.
I would like to first say thank you for allowing me to have this opportunity to speak, as well as for all of the other members of the California community at large to have a public comment. Thank you to the board members who did their due diligence in the selection of panel selection for this NP Advisory Committee. I also agree with possibly doing a deeper dive with the Dr. Chappell person, if he truly is in fact not very supportive of NPs. But as far as the other members that have been selected, I'm in full support of those candidates. And again, thank you for your time and your due diligence for choosing a diverse group of representatives for the nurse practitioner community in California. And I'm done speaking.
Thank you. We have a public member identified as public member who would like to speak? 1 second. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you. Sorry, my name is Jenny, and I'm just wanted to make a comment. One, the Board of Registered Nursing website was down as well over the weekend, so it was kind of unclear regarding the members or the nominees that were selected. And so when if I was able to see
I'm sorry. This is Reza. Can I pause? I don't know if it's just me. I'm having a very hard time hearing and understanding the comment. Maybe you could speak a little closer to the mic or just speak up, please.
Are you able to hear me better?
A little bit.
Sorry.
That's better. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to point out that the Board of Registered Nursing website was down, so there was some time lapse between the availability and being able to review the nominees. And the second point is I would just like to see a little bit more diversity in terms of the regions that is being represented. I do notice that there is no nurse practitioners from Los Angeles County who represented a huge subset of the population. I have both in Southern California and Northern California, and the regional difference in terms of taking care of patients as well as it is in Central Valley is vastly different, and I would just recommend for the board to have that consideration. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Liz Chu would like to make a comment. Go ahead.
Yes, hi. Yes, hi. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, thank you. As the BRN lawyer said that the board meets the text of the law, but Representative Wood said it not necessarily the spirit of the law. And I think it's great that you're meeting the text of the law, but you have a great opportunity right now to meet the spirit of the law. I think, the CANP and we nurse practitioners have fought a long, hard battle to achieve AB 890. And I do want to say that I do very much appreciate all of the hard work that the BRN board has done, including Michael Jackson and Betty Wood. But I do think that we need to continue to be concerned about not having representation for current family nurse practitioners, people that are actually practicing as a family nurse practitioner. I think that's very important. And I'm also still concerned about nurse practitioners that she was not a proponent of AB 890, and that two of the nurse practitioners that are proposed to be on the board are from San Diego, and not, I think it's, that continues to be a concern for me. And I also want to say that I support the opinions of Amy Paulson, Amy Ziegler, and Karen Bradley, as well as many of the other people that have spoken today. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Lindsay Howard would like to make a comment. Go ahead, Lindsay.
Hi, I want to thank you for your time. My name is Lindsay Howard. I'm an adult gerontology primary care nurse practitioner. I'm excited to see AB 890 coming to fruition. I understand this is an arduous process, but I do want to also support review of the committee composition. I personally would like to see members that are actively working in primary care, regardless of background, whether they previously did. As we all know, practice changes sometimes day to day, week to week, month to month, especially now. So I want to see people that are actively working in primary care if possible. And also with the aging population, I think it's important that we have, a gerontology representative. I think that's very important. I know that FNPs practice across the lifespan, but I would like to see more gerontology representation. And just as a last note, to ensure that members of the committee are in support of NP practice and in support of AB 890. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Bradley Capel, or is it Chappelle, would like to make a comment. Go ahead, sir. Bradley. Mr. Chappelle, would you like to make a comment?
He says that he's still muted.
No, he's unmuted. Oh, there he is. Hold on. Let's try this one. Go ahead,
Can you hear
sir.
me?
There you go. Go ahead.
All right. Thank you. Sorry, I would have never imagined a volunteer role would have become an attack on my character, but I am honored to be nominated for this role and hope to serve the members of the BRN as well as the public over the next few years as we collaboratively define the standards necessary to implement this landmark bill. The goal of this bill is to help California join the 37 other states in the country that have expanded the scope of practice for advanced practice providers. For the record, I've made no public comments, nor do I have any political stake in this bill. The advisory board is commissioned to provide objective advice on the framework necessary to implement the bill. To clarify, as Reza already stated, I am a DO. I am in good standing with the Osteopathic Medical Board of California. I'm board certified by the American Osteopathic Board of Emergency Medicine, and I'm a fellow of ACOEP. I grew up in Oklahoma. I trained and worked in Michigan, and now call Southern California my home. And I'm working as the ED medical director at a county safety net hospital, which serves a very diverse population that is approximately 84% funded by Medi-Cal patients. During my tenure in my role, I focused on educating my team, and one of the first things I did when I started was to expand the nurse practitioner role, implementing evidence-based protocols and maximizing their role within our practice environment so they could safely provide care to the maximum of their ability. I'm very familiar with the concept of consumer protection. As the vice chair of AOBEM, our primary role is to ensure the safety of the public and the physicians that we certify. In terms of emergency medicine, approximately 8% of the emergency medicine workforce, and a steadily growing number over the last decade, is composed of nurse practitioners. Our current team is a mixture of family, acute care, and geriatric nurse practitioners. I've spent years building my diverse team and take issue with the characterization that I am anti-NP. I'd like to be able to speak for myself on the fact that I am here for the patients and to make sure that we are allowing our team of nurse practitioners to provide the best care possible. It's unfortunate that disgruntled former employees would publicly make slanderous statements, but I'm hoping we can move forward and work together to create the framework to provide optimal care for our patients.
Thank you. Olasawan Ogunjimi, sorry if I messed that up, would like to make a comment. Go ahead, Alawasun. Okay, we'll go on to Ron Ordona would like to make a comment. Go ahead, Ron.
Good morning once again. I'm Ron Ordona, nurse practitioner in home-based primary care. We would like to respectfully reiterate our concerns to the non-representation of nurse practitioners in the trenches of active primary care practice, and would like to thank Board Member Imelda and Board Member Mary for echoing that concern. We do appreciate that the board has looked into these nominees, but for those practicing acute care and doing on the side, a volunteer doing primary care is different from somebody who is in the trenches, like day to day, dealing with the challenges of running a primary care practice. Of concern is one comment from Board Member Elizabeth about MD nominee who said no one is practicing solo, because this is bearing in 2023 when we reach that point where we can have nurse practitioners practice on their own to reach and give access to those patients who are, in our case, like in the foothills of the Sacramento region. So we'd like that comment in place. Thank you very much and have a great day.
Thank you, Ron. Patricia Gurney would like to make a comment. Go ahead, Patricia.
Thank you so much. And I want to reiterate my thanks to the board for the work that they've done in vetting and reviewing these candidates. And I would like to just reiterate my concern that the nominees do not, even though there are FNPs, there's no one who is in primary care and among the nurse practitioners. And in the times that we as CNP has been asked to advise the board and provide recommendations. And all of the times that we've spoken at previous meetings, we've advised the board that the nurse practitioners on these committees have expertise in statute, regulation, clinical practice, and administration of nurse practitioners as they roll out these very important regulations. I have not heard that the nominees have that kind of deep policy experience, and it is very concerning. And I also thank the board members who have raised like concerns. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Patricia. Cynthia Jovanov would like to make a comment. Go ahead, Cynthia.
Hi, this is Cynthia Jovanov. I actually have voiced my opinion a few times, and I concur with all my family practice and pediatric colleagues that have voiced their concerns about not practicing in the primary setting, that do not understand the trenches of primary care. I also would like the board to strongly recommend changing the whole panel and actually be fair and equitable in the selection process. It was noted that you all just realized what the background was of all these members. So I think there was a strong bias selection, and that raised huge concerns. My other concern is that it is noted and observed by the public that those have been chosen, most likely have been chosen because of the fact that they will not challenge recommendations or decisions of possible friends on the board. It is also witnessed that Michael Jackson was apparently hostile in regards to recommendations, suggestions, concerns that was just brought up and was witnessed. And on a personal note, I'm actually concerned with the fact that President Jackson has the audacity to actually say that his Black community is underserved. Well, guess what? I serve that Black community, and yes, it is. And I'm a Latina that serves the community, and it is rather hard to treat COVID-19 patients in the primary care setting where they fear coming in to be treated. So I take very personal attacks of that comment of the president. So the board, I think it is your fiduciary duty to reconsider the selection because it is in the spirit of the law of AB 890, not to the letter of the law. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. Nancy Trago would like to make a comment. Go ahead, Nancy.
Hello, good morning, everyone. And thank you for the opportunity to voice concerns at a moment that we may influence decision-making. I'm Dr. Nancy Trigo. I'm a geriatric nurse practitioner. I practice in long-term care settings in Napa, California. And while the board's biggest concern is consumer protection, this important NP advisory committee represents the NP profession and practice. Therefore, our concerns that the selection process has not shown due diligence in diversity. I'd like to echo Mary Fagan's words also that the spirit of the bill is being lost here without showing representation for primary care. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. 1 second, please. Denise Alston would like to make a comment. Go ahead, Denise.
My comment is that we are talking about the nominees without giving them an opportunity to provide information about themselves. I also feel that even though one of the nominees has come out in opposition of the bill, it does not mean that she will not support NPs. I think we should hear her rationale for opposing the bill. And, you know, I think there needs to be diversity of thought, not just with different persons on the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Lisa Erickson would like to make a comment. Go ahead, Lisa.
In creating this selection and listing. I do, however, have concerns about the representation and also one of the candidates, Samantha Farr, who has voiced her opposition to AB 890. And I too would like to have a better understanding of how they would work along with the board in implementing something that they have voiced opposition to moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Alexa Curtis would like to make a comment. Go ahead, Alexa.
Thank you. This is Dr. Alexa Curtis. I'm a family nurse practitioner and a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner, currently practicing in rural Northern California. And many, many thanks to the board for all this hard work and sitting here today and having this very honest and open discussion. I am particularly appreciative of the brave board members who have been willing to voice some of their considerations regarding the proposed panel. My particular concerns have already been stated by many. Not primarily is the geographic distribution of the NP members of this advisory committee. And regardless of who these people are, 2 members from one city, one health system, constituting 1/2 of the NP representatives on this important committee is really hard for my mind to justify. I'm also concerned about no representation from rural Northern California, the community that I serve and experience daily the tremendous need. I am also, as a primary care prepared person, very concerned about the lack of primary care representation. I think what we can all agree on today is that we've heard considerable concern about the selection process, not necessarily about the people. I was very grateful to get a little bit more background on the people. That hasn't been released publicly. We haven't had a chance to digest that. So thanks for at least the beginning of that. I appreciate the board's commitment to an open, honest, fair, equitable process. So I am asking this board, as a licensee in California, to please delay the vote on this committee until we, the public, the licensees, can have more information. I would like to see a full and public evaluation of selection process and how that was conducted. In this evaluation of the process, I would like inclusion of an external APRN expert stakeholder. As a licensee, a practicing nurse practitioner, and an academic who teaches data analysis, I would like to see released data.
Thank you, Alexa. Lucia Diaz would like to make a comment. Go ahead,
Yes.
Lucia.
Hello.
Go
Thank
ahead,
you for
Lucia.
listening to public comment concerns. I echo all the concerns brought up, particularly that of Dr. Mary Tahiri in regards to Bradley Chapel. as I have been witness to his unprofessional and uncollaborative behavior in our interdisciplinary committee meeting at Harvard UCLA Medical Center in the past. And being that Los Angeles has the second largest population in the nation, I strongly encourage the board to consider another nominee from LA County, such as Dr. Richard Resnicek, who is a surgeon that takes consumer protection very seriously and is in tune with the needs of our diverse population. And furthermore, has a lot of experience with advocating for nurse practitioner practicing within their scope and to their full training. Please consider that nomination. Cynthia, thank you for your heartfelt comment. And thank you, entire board staff, board members, for listening.
Thank you, Lucia. Sarani Kwan would like to make a comment. Go ahead, Sarani.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Sarani Hairquan. I'm a family nurse practitioner, and I work in a rural community clinic serving a population of indigent and medically challenged patients in the Sonoma County area, hometown of Elizabeth Wood. I want to thank you for highlighting the joint letter from our legislators, Assemblymember Wood and Senator Mike McGuire. I feel very strongly that they just started the conversation that we're all having today. I have concerns with the lack of transparency in the selection process for the NP Advisory Committee. Not including a key stakeholder like CAMP is just not acceptable. We've worked with the board very closely for decades, and it seems unreasonable to me to not include CAMP in the decision-making process. I have concerns that nurse practitioners selected do not reflect the nurse practitioner serving in the rural community. Nobody's mentioned that 56% of this state is considered rural, and our current NP selection does not reflect that. I respectfully request that the board create a new selection team to review all the applicants again. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sarani. Samantha Williams would like to make a comment. Go ahead, Samantha.
Hi, yes, one second. My name is Samantha Williams. I am a family nurse practitioner. First, I would like to say thank you to Mr. Jackson for sharing the vast efforts and consideration that went into ensuring a diverse representation of the public of California. And thank you to Ms. Woods for sharing the perspective that although the nominees work in current positions, they have broad backgrounds. The same goes for nominees not currently members of CAMP. One of the nominees, specifically Samantha Campbell-Spar, served as a member of CAMP for several years, including the role as president of CAMP, and has always been a fierce advocate for the association and the advancement of MPs. And with that being said, I would like to add to the discussion that I think it is very important to provide statements in context, especially surrounding concerns of a bill as important as AB 890. Stating that a nominee was opposed to the bill is not enough. More context needs to be provided as to why a nominee may or may not have been in full support of the bill. It is very possible that a nominee may be in high support of full practice authority and still have concerns with specific elements of the bill. I would also like to add that it is extremely important to consider the current disparities in the healthcare system and to have a board that reflects and represents the needs of those populations, which are at greatest risk. Part of the reasons why these vulnerable populations have gone so long existing within these healthcare disparities and in the shadows of the healthcare system is due to a lack of representation on committees such as this. Across the country, local and state, also national leaders have declared issues relating to these disparities a public health crisis. Thank you all for your hard work and this opportunity to provide feedback to the discussion. There is a current public health crisis. This vote should not be delayed. Lastly, it is my hope that members of the advanced practice community can continue to call in and provide their feedback without feeling personally attacked, attacking board members, or attempting to speak for communities and vulnerable populations that they have a limited experience of. Thank you all for your hard work.
Thank you, Samantha. Samantha Gambles-Barr would like to make a comment. Go ahead, Samantha.
Good afternoon. This is Samantha Gambles-Farr. I would first like to take the opportunity to thank the board and all of its members for its opportunity for me to serve on this NP advisory board. Understanding the importance of this board and how it will impact nurse practitioners' practice as well as our community as a whole, including rural, local, and hospitalized patients. I'm thankful for the opportunity to be considered. I also thank all of my NP colleagues for their consideration and for them voicing their opinions in favor or opposition of anyone that may be serving on this board. It's important for us to have conversations as it relates to legislation, whether you are for or against it, and also understanding the complexity of legislation is not a chasm, and that specific components of legislation may create opposition for some people. Thank you once again, and I appreciate you all.
Thank you, Samantha. Kevin Maxwell would like to make a comment. Go ahead, Kevin.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, first of all, I'd like to thank the board for their support of this nomination. I think, a lot of the comments that I've heard feel like some people feel like maybe they don't have a voice. One of the other hats that I wear beyond working at the University of UCSD is as an educator at the University of San Diego. The mission of our school is to serve the disadvantaged and vulnerable populations. I've worked in primary care. I train primary care NPs to work with these populations. One of the courses that I teach is health policy, so that there is, to reassure the public, there will be a voice, hopefully on the board to deal with some of those concerns. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate the support of your board, and thank you for considering me.
Thank you, Kevin. Meza would like to make a comment. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Hi, good morning. This is Dr. Ileana Mesa. I'm a nurse practitioner at LACUC Medical Center. We are one of the largest medically underserved areas, serving a very diverse and vulnerable population. And I would just like to say that I want to thank the board for their due diligence and the work that they've done. And I also want to state that it is in this form that we're able to see the things that are lacking or needing. So I don't think that anyone should feel like, well, why didn't this happen before? Or why weren't we alerted? And so I thank you for even having this time and this process so that everyone can put their input. And I do echo everything that everyone has said. If you are not someone who is supportive of this bill,
Did we lose that commenter?
We'll come back to her. Monica Lerma would like to make a comment. Go ahead, Monica.
Board members, my name is Monica Lerma. I'm a 10-year acute care medical surgical nurse in the Coachella Valley, Riverside County. I'm currently a nurse practitioner student, so I'm very interested in where our practice is going. I volunteer quite a bit, and I'm concerned about the fear some of our patients have because of the previous administration. People fear going to doctors. People fear being deported. We have a high immigrant community, migrant families, refugees even. A lot of Spanish-speaking communities in my community. I live in the city of Indio, California. And I would like to see representation for my community. I don't feel like my community is being represented here. I'm pretty sure many of you have many patients from these type of rural areas. And I'd like to know and see how we can better help these people. My parents, speaking on a personal note, my parents were migrant workers. I'm a first generation college student, high school graduate. And so this really impacts me. As a matter of fact, I never even spoke English first until I was like in 3rd grade. So I'd like to see representation from my community, or, you know, similar to my community on this board. And it frightens me because we see so many of these patients come into the emergency room and end up on the acute care where I meet them. They don't speak Spanish. They're afraid. Are they going to be deported? My unit, as a matter of fact, in my hospital took care of only COVID patients. I've been a COVID nurse for the past year. So yes, I'm very interested in how we can put representation from my community on this board. We have a lot of Native patients as well, or First Nation patients, excuse me, as well as, I'm sorry, I made some notes here and now I have like stage fright, sorry. And there's been a lot of comments about Samantha Farr, who had made some social media posting against AB 890. I'd like to hear from her if she, what her thoughts are going forward. How is she going to help our board? I haven't heard her mention anything. Also, my community has many disparities like diabetes, CAD, hypertension, asthma, HIV. We have a very high LGBTQI community here as well. Do we have board members that are representative of that type of community, the LGBTQI community? Anyway, thanks for letting me speak, and thank you for everyone who has worked so hard. And I look forward to being a participant in these talks. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thank you, Monica. Sarani Kwan would like to speak. Go ahead, Sarani.
And those of you that are not talking, hang on a minute, Rachel. Those of you not talking, go ahead and put yourselves on mute, because we're having echoes in background. Go ahead, Rachel.
We can't hear the commenter. Is this Sarani Kwan?
Sarani Kwan. Oh, sorry. Let's try to go back to iMesa. Or El Mesa? iMesa? Hello?
Mark, I believe that person had already made public comment. I think she
Yeah,
had listed in there several times.
Yeah, she fell off, and I was going to go back to her.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Miss Mesa, are you there? Oh, okay. She must still be. Beth Haney would like to make a comment. Go ahead, Beth.
Good morning. Hi, thank you. I'm a family nurse practitioner working in the UCI Student Health Center. I also have a private practice as well as serving in public office. And as a council member and mayor, I understand the pressure that this board is feeling to make choices and make them in a timely fashion. But I think to make appropriate choices, the time needs to be allotted, and you have to do this thoroughly. And while the law does not specify rural area NPs should be included or have been included, they should be included for fair and equitable representation and should absolutely be considered for this advisory board. Clearly, there is concern with these nominees, as evidenced by the over 60 public comments in total. And I strongly encourage a new selection or selection committee that involves the California Association for Nurse Practitioners because CANP has the most resources relating to AB 890. The organization has worked tirelessly for decades trying to get fair and equitable treatment to all of our patients. And I would just strongly recommend that this board consider what has been said previously and also my comments. Thank you very much.
Samiz Daly would like to make a comment. Thank you, Beth. Go ahead, Samiz.
Hi, thank you and good morning. I really appreciate this forum. I am Samiz Daly. I'm a family nurse practitioner. I've worked in primary care for over a decade. I have been in the healthcare profession for over 30 years. I appreciate the board's diligence in this selection. This is extremely important for our community as a whole. I appreciate your video conferencing, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I stand in support of the board's decision thus far and the motions to remove or consider removing a nominee that has displayed questionable character to nurse practitioners. I also support the board's notion to continue with the other advisees, the other nominees. It is no doubt of mine that these people have not volunteered without the intent to add highest, safest quality of care to our community. As far as Samantha Gamble's far, I've worked alongside of her for years. I know she is dedicated to the global people of global majority and also the community as a whole. So I thank you for this opportunity, and I support the board's decision as it stands. Thank you.
Thank you, Samiz. Can I question the board? If if a person has already requested a public comment, would we like to give them another chance, another go around, or is it one time enough?
Reza, would you like to answer the moderator on that, please?
Sure. Legally, I think the board could if it wanted to. However, I think our rule was that you speak once per agenda item. You get your time that's allotted to you, and that's it. We're, I think, at past 11 a.m. now, and I'm not sure how much more public comment we have, but
no, we're done. I just wanted to see if you wanted to, if we're sticking to the once per.
I think unless it's unless the board really wants to hear from somebody, or if it's perhaps one of the nominees themselves who wants to say something, I think it's only fair that you get your one chance, just like everyone else.
BRN moderator, the Mesa got cut off earlier, is back.
Okay. Ms. Mesa, are you there?
Hi, this is Dr. Ileana Mesa, and I'm a nurse practitioner at LAC USC Medical Center, a very largely populated, diverse area serving the medically underserved. And I want to thank the board for their due diligence and the work that they have done. And I also want to say that I echo the thoughts of everyone. I think that the people that are going to serve in the committee should be people that supported AB 890 and that have an understanding of policy making. And I also wanted to address a misleading comment by Dr. Brad stating that disgruntled ex-employees, everyone who's made a comment is not an ex-employee. They currently work for the Department of Health Services. And so I just thank the board for taking the comments and the concerns of the people. And I also would like to see someone from the LA area serving on this board because we're the highly most populated area serving the underserved. And I thank you for your time and for allowing us to make the comments.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Mesa. GK would like to make a comment. Go ahead, GK.
Hey, good morning. I would like to know if the members involved in the selection team knew if Dr. Bradley was a DO and not an MD beforehand, before it went into the agenda, or was it just a typo? And if they already didn't know about it until the public brought it up today, it goes beyond the deductive logical reasoning that how comes such major concerns arises, because there's no guarantee that such, though not similar, oversight could have been made in other selection of other committee members, which we are not aware of right now, given the non-transparency process. Also would urge the board members to not use words as a shield, for words are just in the words in the statute as a shield, for words are just that words. Hence the reason the state has invested in esteemed board members like you with valuable experiences and diverse experience to use our rational sense to come with conclusions of interpreting those words wisely that will help the public. Hence, I know the board probably is in urgent pressure to rush through forming a committee, but understand that the committee who is going to form is going to make vital decisions on the transfer TTP protocol, which is going to have impact on many nurses coming henceforth after the graduation. So it's better to go slow and steady, but rather than reaching a stalemate later. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk as a public member. Thank you.
Thank you, GK. Board President Jackson, there are no other public requests for comment. Would you like me to close this window?
Yes, close the window, please. Thank you very much, everyone, for the public comments. Thank you, board members, for your comments and feedback. I think we put together a diverse team that can help this bill move forward. We have people from African-American communities, Latino communities, Asian communities, LGBT communities as well. We have people that have served in CNAMP and who serve in a vast variety of settings. I thank the board members for your time and your patience. And at this time, I'd like to call for the vote on these nominees and their previous motion that was made, which was to go forward and exclude Dr. Bradley Chappelle until further background information can come forward. So at this time, Michael Jackson votes yes. Kenneth Marborough?
Ken Marborough votes yes.
Emilda?
No, I'd like to reconsider them all. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary?
I vote no as well.
Thank you. Dolores?
I vote yes.
Thank you. Susan?
Just a point of clarification, it's on your last motion, right?
That's correct.
With everyone except for Chapel.
That's correct.
Okay. Susan Rondo votes yes.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, Elizabeth Woods, the nurse practitioner.
Elizabeth, you were muted. Can you unmute and try that again?
So sorry. Elizabeth Woods votes yes.
Thank you very much. The motion carries. And now we can move forward with forming our advisory committee. Thank you very much, everyone, for your hard work. Thank you very much for your feedback in this committee. That's what makes it a democratic process, that everybody has a voice. And just because this committee is formed doesn't mean that the public won't be there participating. Doesn't mean that all the people that offered up comments today won't be there participating and offering up your expertise. We're counting on it. So we appreciate everyone today. Thank you very much. And we're going to move on to item 6.0, and this is adjournment of the meeting. I encourage everybody to stay safe and wear your mask. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you. This adjourns our meeting, item 6.0. Thank you.
Thank you.